Welcome back, guys. I am Follygon, and in this video I am going to be sculpting in Nomad Sculpt here on my iPad Pro. But before we get in and talk about the process, click that subscribe button if you are new around here, and check out gumroad.com/Follygon for things like my custom brushes, materials, and online courses. So we're definitely doing something a little bit different today. Very experimental, very just sketchy as well. I mentioned recently that I wanted to start doing just some quick kind of 30-minute to an hour-long sketches. This one here I spent about 30 minutes on. And also very different is we are working in Nomad Sculpt, which is not something that I do very often here. So Nomad Sculpt is on the iPad Pro. Normally I am sculpting in ZBrush on my desktop computer, but what I really like about sculpting on the iPad is that it kind of is a little bit more relaxing than me at my desktop. Obviously ZBrush is a lot more powerful and I can do a lot more with it than here on the iPad. It's not quite as strong and it's definitely a lot harder to control. And it's just missing some tools, but hey, that's what you get with a mobile application. So yeah, we're just kind of sketching around, experimenting, trying to find some forms that look visually interesting and then develop and continue to work on those. So I'm using a function within Nomad that also exists in ZBrush. It is essentially a dynamic geometry or dynamic topology. That means that as I sculpt, it will add or remove geometry, polygons, depending on how much I need. So if I make my brush really small and sculpt a tiny little piece, like kind of what I'm doing right now, that will add in polygons exactly where I need them. So that's really cool. It's great for sketching as well because you can kind of let the tools and the program kind of melt away and treat it a little bit more like traditional clay. So with this sketch here, you can see that I started off with something slightly anthropomorphic, but it has definitely kind of evolved from that. I started off with those really large shapes on the side of the head, and I'm starting to build up those even more. I was very much inspired by the shape of an orangutan's face, but I wanted to not, especially call towards that. I didn't want to make it the exact same shape. So I definitely just kind of sketched on a quick shape there in the beginning, pulled out the geometry, and whatever silhouette it made, I kind of just stuck with that. And at this point, you can see that I'm starting to push on that and develop it further. I've got some pretty interesting shapes happening around the mouth and nose region. Typically when I am just experimenting with shapes like this and just trying to come up with something visually interesting, I just make a quick sketch on the surface, go over it a few times with my brush, and whatever shape that creates, whatever kind of Bob Ross happy accident that makes, I try to stick with that and develop on that further. So you'll see me do that more here with the nose area in just a moment, but I start pulling out some shapes for some quick ears and then start to sculpt on those just to give them a little bit more form and make sure that the resolution is at an appropriate level. I start to thin out the neck, and I very quickly start to realize that those ears are starting to look very aquatic, kind of like fins on the side of a fish's face. So I have to go back through later on and adjust that shape to make those fit the form a little bit more. But when I did that, I actually had to stop and think for a minute and say, do I want to take that in that direction? Do I want to push a little bit further in that way? And I didn't. I kind of like the orangutan type face and kind of pushing in that direction a little bit more. So we're definitely very alien, very kind of anthropomorphic creature here. I'm starting to fill in with clay a lot of those forms, starting to develop those shapes around the nose and mouth a little bit more. I've been using this crease brush a lot in this program to create some nice, sharp, kind of planar cutouts, which is what I did there initially. And then I'm just going back through with a clay brush to fill in my volumes and create some secondary shapes. So a lot of this, as you can see, is extremely messy. For something that I just created in 30 minutes, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I would definitely love to take this into ZBrush and continue to develop on it, maybe remesh, clean it up, get some really nice tertiary details on it like skin pores and stuff like that. I would probably need to develop the secondary form and the overall design a little bit more as well, just because a lot of it is very sketchy and unrefined. But I really like that unrefined nature of a lot of these forms. There I am going back to the ears, as I mentioned earlier. I didn't want those to look exactly like fish fins or anything like that, so I definitely pulled those down, gave it a little bit more of a droopy look. And then at the very end here, I did a quick little experiment just by squishing those shapes on the side of the face and adjusting some of that to see if I liked kind of pushing that a little bit more towards something that felt a bit more human. But what I decided to do was not do that and instead just pull back on that shape so that you could see the front of the face a little bit better from the profile. And that is it for this quick little sketch. I know that was short, but I got some longer ones planned here for the future. And if you guys like this kind of thing, where I just kind of sketch and talk about the process, let me know, and maybe we can do some more in the future. But until the next one, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Click that subscribe button if you're new around here. Check the links in the description for my courses, brushes, etc. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye now.